good method. That's one really nice part about the digital advertising is that you can make it more unique. When it's in print, it's kind of one little thing, but the digital advertising, you can throw on a video, or you can throw in, for a while, the hot topic was stock photos, making them look really pretty, or some articles, and you'll see a good amount of that. And we're now trying to offset that with more organic content. And I know there's a lot of other rental operations that are doing some great stuff out there. Our Auto Rentals comes to mind, and Rental Max, places where I've seen some great organic content. And we're going to start implementing even more of that with our level as well.
Welcome to Peer Talk, a dialogue with business owners just like you. Peer Talk conversations run the gamut of business challenges facing owners today. The host of Peer Talk is Dan Crowley, founder and owner of Peer Executive Groups, which provides a safe space for owners to share their experience, grow their businesses, and learn from their peers.
Hi, this is Dan Crowley. We have a number of great owners in our peer group network, just like you, and our job is to give you a voice here on Peer Talk.
Today's sponsor is Paige Sachs, Senior Internet Marketing Consultant with Reach Local. If your goal is to build your online presence, drive leads to your business, or manage the leads and engage your current customers, please give Paige a call at 650-678-9975.
Our guests today on Peer Talk are two great guys, Robert H. and Robert W. Pederson. Robert H. is the father. He's the third generation owner of a tool shed in Santa Cruz, California, multi-site operator. And Robert W. has joined him and is now very active in operating the company. They are going to address today's topic about generating market awareness, especially in a metro place. Thank you for joining Peer Talk. We have another exciting episode for you today. Today we have a very special day with the Pedersons, who are the owners of a tool shed, and they're based in Santa Cruz, have multiple locations around the area. And today we will be focusing on the topic of creating market awareness in your area. Welcome, guys.
Thank you, Dan. Good to be here.
Thanks for having us, Dan.
Now, should I call you Rob and Robert, be the elder statesman?
Yes, I go by Robert, and we had to break this up because of the same name in our company too. So I'm Robert, and my son is Rob.
Got it. Excellent. So let's start with Rob first, because Rob's obviously younger, and I want to hear a little bit about himself, how he found himself entering into the rental industry and becoming part of a tool shed. So go ahead, Rob.
Yeah. My background is a little varied. I'm extremely fortunate, but I grew up with the rental industry. I worked in the yard as a young kid, like many rental owner operators, picking up bolts for money, 5 cents here, whatnot, rags, etc. And then was a full yard personnel in high school, which is fantastic. But from there, I went off to the Naval Academy and did 11 years and flew in the Navy as a helicopter pilot.
Ooh, wow.
And once the opportunity came I finished up my basically contract there and required time. It was presented to me, the offer to come back into the family business, and I decided to take that and maybe provide a little bit of an exit plan, but also just get to join back into, be the fourth generation in what is a fantastic company, organization, and still working with employees that have been with us for 30, 40 years. So getting to jump back into that, I'm really happy and fortunate to do that. So.
Excellent. Well, that's good to hear. And I remember when you appeared on the scene, and I had yet to meet you, and I had worked with Robert for a while. So it was great to see some of the next generation getting involved. Robert, why don't you tell us about your background and how you found your way into a tool shed?
My background, well, same thing. I grew up. I'm third generation, so I did the same thing. Grew up in the rental business as a kid, picking up rags for money, and went from there. And then in high school, part time, college in the summers, worked for the company, and then I was on my way to law school, and my dad and brother asked me to help come back that summer, and we opened up one store, and the next thing I know, I was working with him, opening another store, and well, I just loved it, so I never went back. I just stayed with the business and went on from there. So the business was started by my grandfather back in 1945. So it's great to see the fourth generation coming on now for this family.
Thing that I find crazy is, as you said, fourth generation, and the possibility of a fifth generation is just unheard of in this. Or it's probably exists. Do you guys know of any other rental operations that have four generations at this point?
I'm sure there's a few, but not many that are actually in the same family. Some have sold, so that they started back in the 45, but they're no longer in the same family. Actual fourth generation of ownership, I'm sure there's a couple of them out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm actually trying to think of them, and I cannot think of anybody on the fourth. But let's just say if Rob has a baby boy, you probably already do, but I hope you named him Rob, so we have another struggle for your facilitators and your peer group people to figure it all out. So appreciate that. So tell us, so A Tool Shed, you started it by saying, bought a second, bought a third. Give us the whole lay of the land. Tell us all about A Tool Shed and, how many locations geographically, where do you cover, all those good things.
Well, we currently have 8 locations. We're in the process of actually opening back up our 8th location right now. And we cover the Silicon Valley area out in California. So basically it's the cities of San Jose, Campbell, Santa Clara, so Santa Clara County, Monterey County, Santa Cruz County, San Benito County is where we're located. So it's kind of a large geographic area in the center part of California that we encompass. Started off with just the small stores and grew from there. We did have at one point a party rental company with 3 locations, and we were up to 11 locations prior to the recession, and had to shrink down. Sold off the party rental company and shrank our equipment rental company down to the 7 locations, and actually went down to 6, and then we're now expanding with the good economy and everything else that's going forward. So and I'm lucky enough also to have Rob's sister has joined us this last year too, so that's another part of the fourth generation. She's working in the business now also. She's been here for a little over a year. So
excellent. And so are those properties affiliated with you guys, or are you under a lease arrangement with those businesses, the properties?
We own most of the properties. There's a few that are still leased with the intent of purchasing them at the point that the owners want to sell them. But the owners are still pretty tight on holding on to their property at this point.
Now, did you guys cross that holy threshold of 100 employees at this point, or
Nope.
Where are you at? You're below.
We're not there. Around 90 or so. So it's
90. And then everybody becomes part-time. No. Really? Well, the hallowed ground really is when you cross 50. That's when we find that, it becomes, there's a huge human resource element that needs to be really well developed in those organizations. So you guys crossed that long time ago, so not an issue. But today's topic is market awareness and generating awareness of your business. Let me ask you this. Have you guys had the chance to establish your mission statement or your values or vision for your company? Anything like that?
Yeah, we've so our mission statement is to create an exceptional customer experience. We also lean heavily on the fact that we are family owned and continue to operate that way. And that's something that we try to market to as well. And I think that's something that differentiates us from, say, another rental company or a national, where we can have those honest conversations and you have that reason. We get back to the community and try to show that as well. So, but that's our mission statement is working on making every interaction that we can to the max extent possible an excellent customer experience.
Excellent. Very good. That's a good one. I like that. So clearly, you've given some thought to not just going out into the marketplace, but really having something to say about your company and how you're different from others. So your differentiation is probably active in your market strategy. So let's talk about that. So you guys sit in a market, let's say most parts south of San Francisco, the city of San Francisco. San Jose is probably your first major market, right? Where you're closest.
That's correct. Yeah.
And so from that perspective, have you done any advertising in the marketplace? And that could be in the form of old school adverts like TV, radio, anything like that.
Yeah, I would say our marketing strategy gives a good portion towards those kind of older school the advertising methods. So our radio ads, we try to keep them really fresh. I think the content is key with some of those. Kind of my vision of it is that when you turn on your car, usually it defaults to something, and that could be the radio. It's most likely the radio. And same thing on job sites. Most people don't have their MP3 players or podcasts rocking on a job site. So the radio, I think, still gets a good amount of coverage, even though some may say that it's not the best option. But I think for our line of business, it is still very much a good option. And then we also focus on advertising on Hispanic radio stations as well as English radio stations. So trying to cover the gambit, which is the population that we're serving down here.
Excellent. Well, and again, the reason why this is such a great podcast to talk about these things is you are in a metro where you're so tightly covering the market, you can almost calculate your market share and know that television in your market, radio in your market has this type of impact, right? So it's kind of, not everybody can say that. We have a lot of members who have one location or two locations and they're in a major metro and they wouldn't necessarily want to buy all those eyeballs. But in your case, it does seem to make sense, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And our television advertising is very focused. Usually using like Comcast, and using sports, and so we're focusing it towards the audience that is our customer, our blue collar customer, so to speak, whether it be a homeowner or a contractor. We don't do any more. There's no more yellow pages or anything like that. That's long gone. But we do still do some print advertising, and it's again focused towards the homeowner in the home and garden issues and of local newspapers that go out or magazines that go out in our local area. So that's the print advertising that we still focus on. And then we get into some of the newer advertising, the social media and AdWords campaigns.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that in a minute, but let's hit a pause button on that. And just to reiterate, you mentioned homeowner versus contractor. How do you see, obviously when you start to design ads, part of it is to say this is how we're different, but you're also thinking about the demographic and the psychographic of the individual you're presenting that ad to. So how do you decide on that? What's your breakdown between homeowner and contractor?
Well, we don't really break down that too much, but when we are doing an ad, like a print ad for a home and garden issue, obviously we're going to focus the ad. The pictures will be like somebody mowing a lawn or something along those lines. Where if we're going into an ag magazine or going into something else that's more on the construction side, it'll be a picture of one of our forklifts or a Ford reach lift or a backhoe or something along those lines. When we do our TV advertising, it's a broad spectrum all the way across. It shows both our homeowner equipment along into our construction equipment, and we talk about delivering equipment. So we'll actually have like a forward reach lift being loaded up onto one of our delivery trucks or something like that in our television advertising.
Continue to focus in that area and promote it, or do you pick an area of assets where it's like underutilized and you want to get the word out? So how do you see that, and while we're on that topic, who do you consider the big marketing head in your business? Is it going to be Robert or Rob at this point?
I'm turning it over to, this is Robert, and I'm turning it over to Rob. I've been slowly turning this marketing stuff over to Rob and my daughter Megan. She's actually going to be doing more of the marketing as she gets more and more into the thing. So Rob's been, kind of doing it, but Megan is really stepping up into it right now, and that is part of her job description. So she'll be doing the marketing going forward. She's in on all of our conversations at this point and starting to design some ad campaigns for us right now. So that's where it's headed in the future.
Yeah. And Dan, your point on targeting specific pieces of equipment, we haven't. There's been some that we've identified that have been underutilized. I can use, for example, a one-person auger or a self-propelled auger. We had these, and we sent them out with a trailer and all the bits that you need. So it's a really nice little combined package. And we had just a couple, and they weren't really making that much money. But we started sending those out with some of the homeowners and kind of pictures and then including videos on our online advertising with them in use, and we've seen a lot more utilization in that tool. So that's been one success story where we've kind of focused on that, and that's really one of those items that a homeowner could find great use of, or even a contractor if they don't have a full team now, with labor being what it is, where it makes more sense, and maybe people weren't looking at it beforehand. So,
well, let's bring social media and internet into play here. So tell us about the origin of how that started and how that's evolved over time.
Oh boy. It started. Well, we're in Silicon Valley, so it started a long time ago with us. We've been involved with Google AdWords and social media for a long time. We've used a couple of different companies in the past, and one of them being Reach Local. We started off with them probably 20 years ago. We're with them for 5 years, and then dropped them for a while because our representative wasn't doing what we thought that they should do, and then picked them back up with our current representative, Paige Sachs, and she's been doing a fantastic job, not just for us, but for the rental industry in general. She actually has had a booth at the ARA show and at the California Rental Association show for the last couple of years. So she's really targeted our industry and helped our industry step up when it comes to the social media and that campaign. And she's helped our company tremendously on that thing. Also with the YouTube videos that we put out through the social media is another thing that we focus on. So it's been a big change. We've dumped obviously all of our old Yellow Page advertising that stopped a while ago, and it all went into the use with Reach Local.
Excellent. And along those lines, have you guys also started to move? I mean, the last 4 or 5 years, the trend seems to be to use whatever you have in place with regard to social media, internet options, to also focus on possibly getting some employment opportunities out there, making sure people are aware that you have some available positions.
Yeah, we definitely will throw out some now hiring or a blurb. The labor market being what it is right now, and hopefully we're starting to come and see the other side of that. I think we're feeling a little bit better now, but that's been a good method. That's one really nice part about the digital advertising, is that you can make it more unique. When it's in print, it's kind of one little thing, but the digital advertising, you can throw on a video, or you can throw in, for a while, the hot topic was stock photos, making them look really pretty, or some articles, and you'll see a good amount of that. And we're now trying to offset that with more organic content. And I know there's a lot of other rental operations that are doing some great stuff out there. Arvada Rentals comes to mind, and Rental Max, a few places where I've seen some great organic content, and we're going to start implementing even more of that with our level as well.
Yeah, I know we try to do, when we see good content out there from a member, we try to promote it at peer executive groups to get it out there so other members can see, how it's being used in those different marketplaces. Because even though we're doing social media and internet, we're catching it there. You can still target geographically, right? So you can still have plenty more eyeballs in a local market looking at your products and services, even though, on a national level, we might never use their products and services, but they're there. So there is this kind of added benefit. I think the key, though, is to identify, how do I get this targeted to my general market, people who will actually use it, right? So, one of the topics we talk about in peer groups is financials and budgeting, right? So I got to ask you this. Now I'm going to put you on the spot. But you got to answer truthfully. So, A, do you budget for marketing?
A lot. We do budget, but it's a flexible amount, because as things come up, we'll take a look at it, and if it happens to go over our budget, we'll take a look at it and say, well, yeah, we can stretch it a little bit more this year to go for this. But our biggest budget item is for the radio and TV, and we do set a budget on that. And we work with an agency on that, so we know what it is, and we know the time frame that they're going to be going through the whole thing. We also have a budget when it comes to reach local. But as far as an actual budget for the whole advertising campaign, we actually have it broken down into print, social media, and radio and TV.
Wow, that's excellent. So you've clearly given some thought to it. Obviously, when you've had success over time using it, you're going to continue to use that vein and say, okay, here's how we're going to spend our money. But yeah, I look at it as, we see the numbers every year coming in from the peer group members. What do you think would be? I'm going to ask Rob this. So, Rob, what do you think marketing as a percentage of sales typically is in the peer groups?
Well, I think what I've seen, so far is it's less than what we do. I'll say that. And I know that you've brought this up to our attention too at times. And but there's different ways. Right now we don't operate a huge sales team, that's out in the field. And I think that this offsets that to a certain extent of rather than having somebody approaching people, we're hedging on this side. And that's not to say it's the right way to go through 100%, but it's definitely one that has worked for us with our market. And we're also, all of our locations are more or less local to each other. They're about 30 minutes apart, so we can kind of saturate and work that, and it might be less costly than having a whole army of sales team out there as well. So,
I will say, anybody who has the systems behind it, like you all have the system behind it, to me, I'm comfortable going outside those percentages, right? Because the goal is to say, if you know what you're doing, if you're just going to dilly-dally and spend the money and say, 2% of my revenue went to marketing, then that's one way to handle it, right? And by the way, I include in there gift giving, contributions, donations, because ultimately, you're a good community steward. You're trying to do some good things for the area. So that becomes part of generating awareness of who you are, what your values are as a company, all that. So that's marketing too. That being said, I'm up for 5%. I can see where organizations that use 5% of funds to market and develop their company usually see a little bit more growth than usual. And ultimately, usually that 5% might come back down to 3% because you're obviously generating more revenue from it. So there's some different things that can happen with that. But you all are north of 5%, or where are you at? North of 5?
We're definitely north of 5, Dan.
Oh, okay. Here we go. All right. That's a whole nother episode. But I will say, so let's see, what did we miss here? So we talked about, the message being tied to who you are, values, vision. We talked about how it might be related to specials. Tell us about that. Have you done any recent specials and seen some results from it? Or are you more of just awareness generation?
No, we do specials because, again, even though we're in California and the weather's beautiful all year long, it does rain here occasionally. It hasn't rained since December. I'm not sure we're going to get any more rain, but when it does rain, we do focused advertising on the water pumps, generators, things like that. So we do focus our advertising campaigns on the seasonality of the equipment and what's going on at that time. So Rob brought up one campaign where we were trying to promote a single piece of rental equipment to promote it, and it actually was a very successful campaign. So we tend not to do a single item like that. It's more of a general thing based on seasonality. So this last season's ad campaign was not very successful because we ran it in hopes of a real winner and some water pumps and generators and things like that, and it never came to our part of California.
Good point. Okay. Now, last topic for this show is, the sponsorships and show participation. Tell us about that, and how do you guys manage your calendar? You got 12 months of every year that you need to manage. What does that look like for participating in shows or in any kind of sponsorships in your market?
We, as far as sponsorships, I guess we do sponsor a couple local sports teams, the minor leagues, and that's been a great relationship. I think over the years we have the San Jose Giants and the Santa Cruz Warriors, and in each of those cases we have some kind of regular advertising, but we also sponsor their mascots, which is kind of a cool and unique thing, and gets out there since they're usually out there, star of the show for a good portion of the event.
Beautiful. I like it.
Those are very fun and I think mutually rewarding sponsorships that we have. And then as far as our general ad campaign, we try not to advertise as much during the slower season, and then we'll start picking it back up once we get a month before the busy season is going to start. This year is kind of an off year, like we mentioned, it's basically summer out here in Northern California, and so we're already in it. So we'll be probably moving that up a little bit. So,
wow, awesome. Well, you guys certainly have your head in the game, and hopefully you're experiencing growth from all your activity. It looks like you are, obviously, up to 8 locations now. Any future growth plans for you?
We'll be getting through the 8th here, and hopefully getting that store opened prior or at Memorial Day, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Excellent. Well, Robert H. and Robert W. Pederson, that was a mouthful. We appreciate you guys being on the podcast today at Peer Talk. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Dan. It's been a pleasure.
Always great, Dan.
Today's sponsor is Paige Sachs, Senior Internet Marketing Consultant with Reach Local. If your goal is to build your online presence, drive leads to your business, or manage the leads and engage your current customers, please give Paige a call at 650-678-9975.
You've been listening to Peer Talk from Peer Executive Groups, produced and directed by Noah Crowley and hosted by Dan Crowley. Subscribe to this podcast for notifications of future episodes of Peer Talk.